Welcome to Midlife Women Entrepreneurs, where you'll find real stories, practical strategies, and the mindset shifts you need for entrepreneurship. If you've ever felt like midlife was too late to launch a business, write a book, or chase a dream, think again. I'm Lana Starchuck, your host, and I'm bringing you inspiring conversations and practical tips to help nudge you forward and keep growing in midlife. So let's jump in. I have Lana Starchuck with me today here on Midlife Women Entrepreneurs. Lana, welcome to the show. You and I met through a women's networking group that I belong to and your sister belongs to. I'm going to hand the floor over to you. Give us a little bit of a background and an introduction to yourself, and we'll take it from there.
Thanks for having me. I'm so happy we finally got here because I remember the day, March 25th, 2025, and I totally stood you up because it was that day I had been let go from my full-time job. Literally, I was thanked for my contributions and invited to leave the organization. And then the day kind of went from there. And then I checked my email later and it was like, oh, is this still a good time? And I'm like, shit, oh, I was supposed to do this pre-call. And I'm like, not really a great time, but let's reschedule. And it got to be the catalyst. And I think I bumped it a couple of times even that week because I was like, yeah, I can handle this in true fashion. Yeah, this is fine. No problem. I can do this. And then it was like, no, I can't. So I was like, let's talk Thursday. I'm like, no, we're not going to talk Thursday.
And that's a testament to strong women, right? Where we think we're stronger than we actually are. And I'm glad that you did take the time.
It's 4 months since that first conversation and a lot has happened. So I am now self-employed, gainfully self-employed, getting my gigs, getting some freelance work little by relentless networking. That's what's happening. I've tried to get some full-time work, which to be honest, I'm not exactly looking for. If the right opportunity should come up, I might consider it, but I'm here at my friend's lake house today, cat sitting and house sitting over this weekend. And I'm also building a log home 45 minutes from here near Huntsville, Ontario with my partner. So we're going to be moving up here. Ideally, all these things are in play. If the condo sells in the city, we're going to move up here to rent to be closer to the build because it's going to take the next little while. So the work thing has gone a direction that wasn't completely planned. But I had been starting to do it while I was still working full time. I'd been hosting events, conferences. I'd been doing speaking engagements while I was still full time employed, even with my employer. My keynote talk is called Unlock Your Resilience, Being Bold and Becoming Fearless. And I use my skydiving career as well as my portfolio career as a writer, producer, director, journalist to bring these ideas to life. And what was happening at that time that I got let go, I had a bunch of skydiving camps lined up in the States because I was not yet accepted to an event happening in August that is 250 skydivers getting together to make a formation. So I needed to prove my skills to the coaches and the organizers. So I was doing these camps and I did 2 in Florida and I did 1 in California, and there were ups and downs, pardon the pun. My performance at one camp wasn't great. The coach came up to me and said, you got this. You know what you're doing. I know you're better than this. And so I cleaned up my act. I went back to California and I excelled at 100-way camp because the criteria was that you had to have done 100-way formation because that's the discipline of skydiving that I've been doing for 17 years now. I cracked my 1,000th skydive last month. And while I was in California, thank you. I got to 999 at that 100-way camp in California. So that was kind of fun for that to happen.
Okay. All right. So let's back up, Lana. You are clearly a multi-dimensional woman. It is amazing to hear. And, as you were telling your story, I just thought, oh my God, this woman just got laid off, in sort of a midlife, which can be considered a little bit scary because the first thing most women would think laid off in their 50s is, oh my God, how am I going to find another job? And you do go into that full-time. How do I find this full-time gig? Let's first talk about what were you doing in your career initially?
So I am formally trained as a theater actor. That's my schooling way back when. So I went to theater school in Montreal. I started off in Saskatchewan, where I was born and raised, dropped out, did some traveling, ended up in Montreal, went back to theater school, got a degree there, and then ended up creating my own work, writing my own work because I wasn't getting work. So I made my own works all back in my 20s, right? So it's not a huge surprise that this is kind of coming full circle. I'm back where I was, but just a lot more informed. So then I got into film and television production. Then I moved to Toronto, and then I was a food reporter for a while on a CBC show, fantastic gig. Season also, I did 5 seasons of running around Canada, eating food and reporting on it. And then the show got canceled. So then I got into corporate communications for 13 years. And then I got let go in 2017. This event that happened 4 months ago was another flashback. It wasn't the first time this had happened. And I was in a very different emotional and financial position in 2017. Actually, that year, fun fact, I started off getting let go, restructured, and the year ended with getting evicted from the apartment that I was living in with my ex-husband, my husband at the time. So not a great time, built that back up and went freelance then. And it was super hard. And 2018, so I got some severance. I lived off that, wrote a screenplay, freelance in 2018 and burnt out. I was working 8 a.m. to 11 p.m., trying to doing the work, networking, finding the work, invoicing, finding the next work. And it was just too much. It was way too much. So I ended up getting another full-time job in 2019, which was quality assurance editor specialist, something like that. Anyway, still, I was a producer. They found out I was a video producer. And so I ended up producing a bunch of learning content for CP Ontario and managing a magazine there. And it was a great gig while it lasted. Flash forward 2025. And thanks very much for your contributions, and your services are no longer required. So I just moved on, right? There's nothing you can really do when that happens, right?
So, Lana, and that's absolutely right. There's nothing you can do. One thing I'm thinking about is like, what was your mindset during that so in 2017, you've already experienced a layoff. So again, much different from a financial perspective, but even still, 2025 hits, you still probably feel like, God, I'm not ready to retire, whether it's financially, mentally, whatever, physically. Like for me, I can't even imagine retiring, because I just feel like it's a death sentence, But what are you thinking at that time? Like I'm thinking about women who might be listening to you who are thinking, oh my God, I just got laid off from my job too. What do I do? How do I keep my mindset? How do I keep busy while I'm looking for that next gig? How do I try to reinvent myself? How do I decide, well, I don't really want to go back full time, or do I? I don't know. Like, how did you make those decisions?
Lynette, have always had a side hustle. I've always had 2 or 3 or 47 things on the go at the same time, right? So it wasn't a huge shock to me. Like being an author, for example, my first book of short stories was published in 2015. So I had always been, and since way back when, since I was freelance writing plays and making my own work and doing contract work, teaching English as a second language, teaching fitness courses, teaching screenwriting along the way. I've always had this entrepreneurial mindset because I don't know why, it's just always been in there. The writing and the producing, anything creative has always been going on for me. So when it happened in 2017, wrote a screenplay with a friend of mine. We kept each other accountable. It was great. Have never been bored in my life, I don't think, because of all these creative ideas that keep popping up. So I don't see myself ever really fully retiring because I have this creative flair, and that's what I do. As long as I'm making something, I'm happy. And I honestly don't see getting full-time work now because I've tried. I know it's only been 4 months, but the situation with the economy, the experience I have, whether I'm unemployable or too employable, I don't know what's going on, but the work I'm getting through by myself for my own, I'm choosing. And this is not easy by any stretch. These last 4 months, I've been up and down. I've been in tears multiple times through sheer frustration of being overqualified, perfectly qualified, and just the resistance. Resistance isn't even the right word. It's rejection, I guess, which I talk about in my keynotes, and I'm very familiar with it from the writing standpoint, but it's just this not being able to break through. And I guess in a lot of ways, but slowly the gigs are coming in. People are realizing that it's just the amount, the ratio, I think, from outreach and networking to getting actual gigs is really out of whack.
It takes time for sure. You said a couple of really great things there where you were saying, when I asked you, what were you doing what were you thinking when you were first laid off? And you said that you always had a side hustle. Call it what you will, a passion project or whatever. And, that just sort of really truly aligns to the key message of this podcast in its entirety is that midlife women need to have something else. I'm going to coin it as multiple sources of income, but also multiple sources of passion and joy where you can find this thing in it. Because like you were laid off. Everybody's going to have an event of some sort in their 50s. And whether it's death, divorce, financial ruin, aging parents, kids moving out, and you are there in your 50s, this is a perfect opportunity for reinvention. And so when you say you always had these multiple passion projects, that is absolutely what's keeping you sane, I think. And then also gives you, I think, a bit of hope. If you were sitting there and you were laid off and you had nothing else going on, nothing can create a portal for bringing new things in. And so that's how I feel that your passion projects are a portal to something bigger and better. And that's where I feel like that's where you're headed. And then the second thing you said was really drawing on your network. So I think you're on to something there where that point needs to be really driven home. Your network is your lifeline. And that's where you're seeing these gigs are coming. It's absolutely true. So you've got a couple of gigs coming in. You've reached out to your network. You're working on all of that. Let's step into your book.
So the book is called What Happens When Your Parachute Doesn't Open and Other Successes with Failures Crossed Out. And there's a picture of me landing on a drop zone in Sweden. And the small print is How to Face Your Fear, Take Risks, and Live Fully. The book is getting written. And I have pitched the proposal to a few publishers, got a few rejections, but plugging away. I'm not averse to self-publishing potentially because it's a self-improvement / memoir, which probably isn't a thing. And people will tell me it's not a thing, but I'm going to do it anyway. And maybe it will become a thing or it'll just be my thing.
So first of all, I love that. When you showed the book, I actually thought that was the true prototype. And then you said you created the mock-up covers. This is a prototype. But it reminds me of that one story of Jim Carrey when he wrote the $10 million check. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, where he wrote this when he was a struggling actor. He wrote a check for $10 million payable to him from whatever, some, let's say Paramount. And, he's big on manifestation. And I think if you can visualize it, so many of these gurus will tell you, if you can first visualize it in your mind, the universe has to deliver it for you. And I love that. So that's excellent. I love that. That's very inspirational. And also to your point about self-help / memoir, I think there's going to be a plethora of those books eventually because as midlife women, we have stories to tell. And those are lessons learned, weaved throughout the things that you've learned through your life. So I think you're doing a great job there.
Well, thank you. And on that note, I think my side hustle isn't really a reinvention. It's an extension of what I was already doing. And it's the combination that's coming to fruition. It's actually happening because I'm using my writing and I'm using my lived expertise, not even experience, but expertise. This is over, I'll be 54 next month. So this is I do consider myself an expert in failure and resilience from my perspective. Do I have all the answers? No, but I never know who is going to need to hear my story. One of my favorite meditation teachers, John Kabat-Zinn, he says sometimes, so you need to hear something for the 7 millionth time. And you're like, that's what it is. So I could be the 7 millionth and one, right?
Exactly.
Talking about principles like failure, awareness, acceptance, confidence, trust, humility, all these guiding principles. And I house them in stories, my real stories about skydiving malfunctions. My parachute did not open one time, and it's a true story. I've been divorced twice. I've been restructured twice, been in a couple of car accidents, all these things. So it's not about the failing, it's about how you recover and what you learn. And also fear. Reframing fear is a huge, huge thing for me. And I'm writing this partially for everybody else to share these ideas and to remind myself this fear of the unknown, right? I don't know what's going to happen in the next while. Hopefully, I'm visualizing success. It's going to happen. I'm mocking up my book, thinking about all these things, but reframing that fear of the unknown as opportunity and potential. Just that little shift can be like, oh, okay, wait a minute. Maybe it's not that bad. Maybe if I just take baby steps towards these things, small steps. And I'm trying my best to take my own advice. Some days are better than others. As you know, as everybody knows watching this, it's not as easy as it sounds. And it's not just a recipe, go out and do that, but little by little. And that's what the book's about. And that's what the keynotes are about, the talks I give.
So let's go into those keynotes. How did you start keynoting? How did you know what to talk about?
Well, it's a work in progress, to be honest, because I did the first one through word of mouth. Again, I was on a weather hold at Skydive Chicago talking to a skydiver friend's wife who happened to work for the Peel Region Police Records Managers. And I'm like, oh, you must have a conference. And she said, yeah, who does the hiring? Oh, I'm on the committee and gave her a pitch. 6 months later, she's like, I get the email. Hey, Lana, we're happy to have you speak at our conference. So I put it together and it was great. A good experience, nice audience. I was able to make a demo reel from that. I was able to join the Canadian Association of Professional Speakers, not even actually meeting the full criteria, but they have exceptions to the rule because I was salaried and I was doing some hosting and speaking at my full-time gig. So all that wrapped together, I joined the association. I'm starting tomorrow, actually, a business starter track to get some advice on how to do this. Because right now I'm starting before I'm ready. I use Seth Godin's philosophy. I'm using LinkedIn to just contact people that I have worked with in the past, new connections. Who does your conference? Who's the hiring committee? How can I get in touch? Who do I need to talk to? So it is relentless, but I have been getting leads that way, having conversations. I know this doesn't happen overnight. My partner now is telling me to try and manage my own expectations because I'm like, nothing's happening. Nobody's calling me. It's like, it'll happen, right?
I love everything that you're saying there, but all I can think about is get documenting that journey and start selling a membership to it because all you need is 10% edge. There's got to be a million other women out there just like you who want to do what you're trying to do. And if you're forging the path, there's an opportunity right there.
Forging a membership for what?
For how to get more keynotes and how to get more onto the stage.
Well, that's true, right? There's a story in itself. Like it's getting kind of meta because it's wrapped up in itself.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Very interested. There's yet another spoke of my income streams because I'm a member of the Writers Union of Canada and I apply to every single ghostwriting opportunity that comes in because they have offering a service that people can write in if they want to hire a ghostwriter. So and I've put proposals together and I've had rejections on that. And I had one interview. I think I'm going to get this gig because I met with the person and he said he was interviewing other people. And even when we met, he's like, how's it going? I'm like, not good. Everybody sees my proposal and then they back out. And it's not even money. They realize this is going to take time. Actually, even if I'm the writer, they still need to give me some input. And they're like, it's too much. I can't handle it. It's overwhelming.
Let's talk a little bit about rejection. There was a guest on my show several months ago where she got rejected 80 times. Like we're not talking like a couple of times, 10 times, 80 times. And then it finally hit. And then a few years later ended up selling her business to one of the biggest major liquor brands in the world. So rejection is what? Redirection, or what do you think?
I wrote a blog post about it years ago because that was my path to publication for my first book. I would use writing contests for deadlines to get my work, my short stories done. Never won a thing. Rejection, rejection, rejection. I don't even know how many I had. Hundreds, probably. And then I had one win, University of Toronto. I won this fiction, student writing fiction, because I had taken a course there. One little award, a lot more rejection. And then once I had the manuscript done, I started sending it out to publishers, rejection, 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 and then book deal, just like that, right? Mm-hmm. So everybody's path is going to be different. Rejection is part of the game. I'm sort of immune to it. As soon as I get rejected, I combat it by doing something else, by doing a new thing, working on another project, just shifting gears to get out of that, because it doesn't feel great.
Mindset. Yeah,
Nobody
exactly.
The rejection, but
yeah,
it's part of that acceptance, right? It's part of the process. And I also had very good advice once upon a time. Somebody said, once you put your thing out there, whatever it is you're submitting, your proposal, pretend like it's gone to Mars. Don't think about it. Go do something for yourself. It's even a win to get that submission done, right? So, and if not them, then somebody else, right? I think it's trying to have a healthy attitude towards rejection is just going to make you feel better about the process.
You said something about that process that I want to bring up because I think it's good. I think we always think about the end. For me, for years, all I ever did was look at the end. Where am I going? The end of the destination, but it's the path on the way to that destination that needs to you find joy. And for me, I just couldn't get my head around that. I'm like, no, I just need to get to the end and then check, 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 check. But what you said was the big win was even just getting the proposal out. And I like that because I think everybody who has a goal, a vision, first of all, if you don't have a vision for yourself and a clearly defined vision, start getting one. It can just even be what you want for the next 3 months, but get those and then get the big, accomplishments, but then try to break it down to the minutest detail so that you can enjoy the journey along the way. That was a quick win that what you're saying to me is a quick win. You got the proposal out, check, you put it out into the universe, and then you moved on to the next. There's nothing you can do about that other than the universe bringing it back to you or not. So I think that's really good advice. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. And I would add to that feedback. Get feedback from people you trust or pay people. It's really helpful because you get so close to your own project, you can't see it properly. And it's invaluable. It's one of my principles too in the book is mentorship, right? I wouldn't be where I am today, either skydiving or professionally in my writing career or speaking career if I hadn't sought help from experts. If you want to write a book, hang out with authors. You want to be in the elite skydiving club, hang out with those people. Just keep showing up like the CAPS. I can't wait for this thing to start tomorrow. It's a 5-month program and
CAPS is the
Canadian Association of Professional Speakers.
Right. Okay, perfect. So Lana, talk about how did you get into skydiving? When you first told me that, I thought, wow, I don't think I've ever met a skydiver before. I mean, yeah, okay. Oh, I'm going to go skydiving, jump out of a plane as something for fun, but it's kind of a quasi profession for you a little bit.
Yeah. So the very first jump, I did one jump in 1996 I was in theater school at the time. And it was my friend's 18-year-old son wanted to go for a jump and she didn't want to have anything to do with it. So I said, I'll take him. And so we went and we did this low altitude jump and there was no free fall. It was because it was a full day thing and you opened your own parachute and you landed and that was it. So it was from 5,000 feet as opposed to 13,000 where you go with free fall and a tandem. So I was like, okay, cool. That was fun. And it was. And 11 years later, I was going through my first divorce and a friend of mine was a skydiver and I just wanted to get out of the city for the weekend. And she's like, oh, come to the drop zone. And I'm like, oh yeah, okay, that's good. I'm like, oh, maybe I'll do a jump. She was like, of course you should jump. So I did a tandem in 2007 and it was a much different experience. all that for almost a minute of free fall. Skydive Burnaby on the shores of Lake Erie in Niagara region. Stunning view. Loved it. Oh, that's one thing led to the next. I got my license. I started doing more. It took a while. Like I've been doing it for 17 years now, minus that 11-year pause. And now I have over 1,000 jumps, but it was a slow burn, kind of like my writing career. It took a while to take off, a sort of a pattern. But now I do these big way belly formations, and I make formations in the sky with as many people as I can find.
And I love that. You're describing all of that, and I think, oh my God, pushing through fears. The first thing I'm thinking about, like jumping out of a plane, will my parachute, open? And like you said, one time it didn't. Do you always get like a rush every time you jump, or is it sort of now just more natural for you?
Well, now the rush and the fear is of making a mistake, ruining it, making a mistake for the formation, right? Because it's highly planned and you have a specific slot to do, whether you're doing multiple formations or you have one slot. Like you need to be responsible for your job. And if everybody does that, say it's like 40, 60, 100 people, if everybody does it, beautiful. But the thing, consistency and repetition are really the foundations of big wave skydiving. Also a chapter in the book, consistency. The more talks I give, the more obvious it is the connection between business, relationships, family, like anything you're trying to do, right? It's not a new story, but you're hearing it from a new perspective, 13,000 foot perspective, right? So yeah, now I'm concerned about really being focused on my own performance, not screwing it up for the group. That's the goal.
All right, Lana. So what's next for you? What's on the docket for the next 90 days?
What is the next 9 days? What are we, July, August, September, October? Well, this big 250 wave formation, it's called dueling 250s because it's actually a vertical world record and a belly, that's RW, the discipline that I do, 250 way. Outside of Ottawa, Illinois, actually. That's where Skydive Chicago is located. So it'll be 250 people. I'll be one of them. 11 planes. That's happening in August. I will check back with you to let you know how it goes. I'm doing a bit of organizing at my home drop zone before that at the end of the month. I've got a nice writing project. I'm doing some ghostwriting for a law firm on a very interesting story. Excited about that. I've got a keynote proposal to get out for some people in Winnipeg. I'm doing a keynote in Trenton in September, so I need to prepare for that. And I got to finish writing the book. So that's going to finish, and that should bring us to October. Hopefully sell that condo and then find a place to live up north. And that should take us through 90 days. Yeah. And hopefully that other ghostwriting project is going to come to fruition. And that's another very interesting story. This 82-year-old has lived a fascinating life and he wants help with telling his story. So I pitched him putting his book proposal together. So that should be a go. So I think there's my full-time work. Oh, and audio description. I just took an audio description course and I have fallen in love with this medium as well for visually impaired people. It's writing the key elements in film and TV projects so that when visually impaired or low vision people, blind or low vision people watch programs, they hear the audio description. And it's such an interesting way to work. And it's a big help for disability justice. It feels really purpose-driven and important work. So all my side hustles together are now the main hustle.
Amazing. I love it. Lana, you've been great. Where can people find you?
Best place is lanastarchuck.com. Reach out there. I'd love to hear from you. There's a demo reel there. You can learn about my book. You can learn about my keynotes and some skydiving. Just reach out, fill out the form, and I'd be happy to talk about any project, any goals, what you're struggling with. Let's connect. Yeah. Also LinkedIn. Okay. I post on LinkedIn too.
Okay. Well, great. Well, Lana, thank you for joining me today. I'm glad we met and good luck to you. And please let me know how things go in August. I want to see that book. Once you get that book launched, let's do another podcast.
For sure. Deal.
Okay. Done and done. All right, Lana, take care. Good luck with everything.
Thanks so much, Lynette.
Hey, it's Lynette. Thanks for listening today. Please like and subscribe. And if there's somebody out there that you think could benefit from the episode, give it a share. Midlife is your time, so go get it.